Welcome into the Triple Option. Paul, Catalina, and Garrett Ross. Sadly, Steven Simcox had to take his kid to the doctor at 12:45 today.
Damn kids.
Yeah, I know. The kids, they like. I know the children are our future, but I'm just tired of them. I'm just flat out tired of them.
I get tired of mine sometimes.
I don't ever get tired of yours. Of course,
fair.
I don't live with them, but
Right, yeah.
again, I will tell you when I see, well, at least Parker. Ava is shyer than Parker.
She is. She's more of like me.
Yeah. He's very, very much shy.
reserved.
Parker has no shyness in him.
None whatsoever.
At all. But every time I see Parker, I feel like Justin Bieber. Like that's like that's how he reacts. That's how he reacts to people he likes, clearly. Like I'm sure there's like more than just me, but it does make me feel it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Taylor Swift, and I'm like, yes, I get it now.
He has an uncanny ability to make you feel like you're the most important person in the world at all times. And it doesn't we'll go grocery shopping and it'll just be like random strangers, and he's known these people his entire life. It does not matter who they are, what they look like. He is all in for humanity.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love that he. And so yeah, that's what Amanda said. We really should have prepared more for being here. So, but yeah, I really do want to. I want to have some fun today. I think we've been through a stressful time. Here's great news: we will not get election texts or emails for 2 more years.
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, of Paul Catalina's 2028 presidential platform.
Here we go. Let's start it.
Here we go. We'll start it. No more. Here's political advertising. Hello, I'm Paul Catalina, and I believe that we should do this to solve the border crisis. Not like my opponent, Emery Winter.
I just think of Parks and Rec every time.
He wants farm animals teaching your children arithmetic. That's not the America I grew up in. Like those commercials are not productive. No matter who you support, that's not really that productive. Like I haven't learned anything about them that I know to be true. Like you could tell me, like, this guy did this, and I could be like, okay, but like, it seems to be like. It seems to be like Hollywood myth and all that stuff about a lot of these things. So here's the thing. Political ads have to adhere to the same standards that, say, a taco place would have, or a car dealership. If I owned a car dealership and I told you that you have buy one, get one free, and then you came there like, well, no, I just said that to get you here, then I would have committed a crime, correct? Uh-huh. So the only thing that political ads should be able to say is I am candidate X, and here's my position on this. And here's that they should be 15-second ads. 15-second ads that are like, hey, I believe that we need a stronger border policy. Check the link here to go to my website and see my full description of the policy. Mm-hmm. And then you go to that website and there's 5-minute videos that simply lay out, here's what I think we should do. We should have this budget allotted to this and that. And not because we watch political debates now, and it's like, how do you feel about the border? It's like, well, let me tell you my opponent and how they feel about this culture war issue. Like, no. I asked you specifically about the border. Like, this would maybe cut that out a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm too pie in the sky. But you would receive, I'm going to tell you, not just from politicians, from anybody, robocalls and robotexts would be outlawed.
It's got to stop.
Outlawed. There would not be a do not call list or a do not text list because it wouldn't need to exist because your thing will not be allowed to exist.
Right.
That's it. The only thing that you can text me for is something I asked you to. Like, please remind me what time my restaurant reservation is, my doctor's appointment, or that I have a prescription ready, or that my dog has just been shampooed. Those things. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know that there's a 25% off sale at Target. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know these things. So on the presidential platform, robocalls, texts, done. They're done. They are done. And if you're one of these people who make your livelihood doing that, start figuring out what the next thing is, baby. because I'm coming for you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I will support that. Dude, like I have gotten so many just ridiculous texts. It was from both sides. Like it was blowing me up every day. It was stupid, as annoying. I hate politics, so this time of year just absolutely drives me crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I love politics, or I grew up loving it. I'm very fascinated by it because I'm a history buff, and this is all part of history. It has become so not fun, so not fun because you can't really discuss it in earnest, right?
Yep.
So I will just make fun of everyone now. I have no allegiances anywhere. I'm
Welcome
a man
to my world.
I'm a man without a country. So I'm not that. I'm still an American, and I love being an American. But I will just continue to make fun of everything, and that's what we're going to do. So Paul Catalina 2028. Don't think I'm kidding. I just think
he can do it. You can.
Here's the thing. I know that I won't win. I just want to get in some debates because I really think that I could make a dent in some politicians in a debate.
I would pay for that, actually.
Look, how much, and I'm going to say, excuse my French, in front of this.
Okay.
But would you love for me to say in a debate, this son of a bitch just said that when you asked him about emissions. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to answer your question about emissions. And then that's all I'm going to say.
That's all you got to say.
Like, I'll be like, hey, here's the thing. We need to lower emissions because we need good air quality. So we need to work with engineers and scientists to make sure that happens in the best way and fix our electrical grid and blah, 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 and move on. Like, I will not be like, well, the ridiculous Democrat policy or the ridiculous Republican policy. I'll just say, here's what we're going to do. Like, I'm not going to criticize the other side. I'm just going to criticize them of saying, like, you asked him about this, and then he said, but my opponent, back in 1991 did this. So like, no.
So irrelevant. Yeah.
No. Here's what we're going to do about emissions. And then that's how I'm going to win a debate. And then, like, in my closing argument, for example, if I was doing it here, I would mention how, like, for Congress, I would mention how our congressman got defeated in a district that only votes for his party really badly and then moved to ours. And then instead of going, hey, why are these people who only vote for this side vote for this, not vote for this guy, like, send him down here.
There's a reason.
Like, he wasn't good up there. Let's not put him in down here. Let's find a different guy who also subscribes to the theories that we like. That's just not so unlikable that we don't want him here. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't ask that question here.
No.
We're just like, oh, he's on our team now. Let's go. That was it. Not like, hey, why you were on our team in the other place before, and then they didn't want you. We'll take you down here.
Yeah, we got you.
No.
So stupid.
Yeah, so it's silly. But that all being said, I think it was a great night for the college football playoff seeds to come out.
Yeah.
I'm going to call them, we got to try calling them seeds. I know we want to call them rankings, but they did actually seed last night, which I think is much more productive than what they were doing before.
I do too.
They're telling you, here's what it is. Now, look, there are teams that have legitimate beefs. And I will say there are the teams that are ranked in the immediate 4 to 5 spots after Alabama. Alabama has they're 6-2. They have no business being the 11th seed.
No, not at all.
Now, yes, they have a loss to Tennessee, and they have the win against Georgia. So those kind of buoy them a little bit. But a loss to South Carolina, or a near loss to South Carolina, the loss to Vanderbilt, plus a schedule that's not really all that much of a, they've beaten Western Kentucky, USF, Wisconsin, and South Carolina, and Mizzou, who for some reason Mizzou is still ranked, and I don't understand that. They're not. Like, Alabama should not be 11th. Now, look, They should still be in the conversation because if they win this week against LSU, that's a game that's going to put them, should they win out, solidly in the discussion if they finish the season 10-2.
Well, I mean,
which they should. Because if you have wins against Georgia and LSU, that should mean something.
It should. I have a problem with them being like even ahead of Iowa State. And I understand Iowa State's loss was absolutely terrible. Like, you cannot afford to lose to an unranked Texas Tech team at home. Like, that was ridiculous. But at the same time, your one loss, I wouldn't have a problem if Alabama if you flipped them. because I think Iowa State, given what they've done, and given how they're having to work with kind of a shorter hand being in the Big 12 as it is, I think putting them up there would have made some sense. I think everybody in the nation should probably be rooting for LSU this week. I don't think, and I'm the LSU fan, I do not think LSU will win this game. I just don't see a way that they can realistically stop Jalen Milroe. I think he carves them up. But I think that's everybody's best bet for Alabama to be falling down is for LSU to get them this week. Because really the only thing buoying them is that win over Georgia.
Yeah.
And if Texas would have beaten Georgia, Alabama wouldn't be where they're at.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say this beef, SMU doesn't have a whole, like, they're 13th, so they're kind of sitting pretty to get in if they keep winning.
Yeah, but I mean,
but to their extent with Alabama,
exactly, that's where I was going to go.
SMU's only loss is to the 9th-ranked team. Bama has a loss to the 7th-ranked team and an unranked team.
Also,
so, like, the second loss, like, there, but, like, the second loss should take him out anyway. And the fact that the second loss, even though Vandy's good,
right,
is to a team that's not ranked in the top 25 of these or in the top 25 seeds, that should be disqualifying to Alabama, but Alabama is there, and I can't figure out if it's just that win over Georgia.
It's got to be. It's that and the prestige. It's everything they've done. You cannot get over the fact. It's going to take a couple of years, I think, for the Saban mystique in Alabama to kind of reestablish their new identity, for everybody to start viewing them differently. I think they're getting the benefit of the doubt now because of their past history, and that's just the way things work here, unfortunately. But, like, as far as SMU, I would say they have more of a beef with Notre Dame because Notre Dame's, like, that's a terrible loss that they have. Like, that's the worst loss of anybody probably ranked right now, is that Northern Illinois loss. And if you're SMU and your only loss is to an undefeated BYU team, why the hell are you right there, especially with Miami being so much further ahead?
Yeah.
Like, I understand they're undefeated, but, like, Miami isn't that much better. And hopefully we'll get to see that in the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
But that one kind of bothers me a little bit as well.
They're undefeated. Like, Oregon and Ohio State make sense at 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
Ohio State's only loss is to Oregon by 1 point on the road.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I think Texas should be 5th. Like, I don't
have a problem with the top 5.
I don't have a problem with the top 5, but I will tell you that Texas's losses to Georgia, so that's why they're in the top 5. But if you start ranking for Texas, Tennessee, and Penn State in particular, for teams they all have a loss, if you start ranking who's the best quality win that Texas has?
I mean, quality win?
Yeah. Who's the best quality win that they have?
Would it be? Hell, it wouldn't be Oklahoma. I don't know. That's a good question. Michigan, because it was in the big house?
No.
But they suck.
It's Vanderbilt.
You're
Vanderbilt
right.
is the best team that they've beaten right now. And Vanderbilt's not in the rankings, okay? So that's their best quality win. Michigan not in this thing, right? Mm-hmm. You know, they also have the win, you know, over Oklahoma. Oklahoma, we know, not in this thing.
Yeah, they're not.
So their best quality win is Vanderbilt over no one who's in it. And again, so SMU, but BYU is behind them. Mm-hmm. Their best quality win is over
a ranked team.
Yeah. So yeah, SMU, you know, and look, SMU doesn't have a spectacular win on their schedule overall by things, but they just drilled Pitt, who's in the rankings,
right?
And they beat Louisville, who's in the rankings.
And they also just came up from Power 5.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's got to count for something. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they're in their new conference, and they've beaten
dominating.
They're undefeated in their conference right now. Right?
Yes.
Like their losses to BYU, who is the number 9
what
team
I'm saying. Like,
by 2 points.
Ridiculous.
On the road, right?
Yes.
So at night, the Vampire, like, these are the things that I need explaining to me, and then I just don't get them from the thing. And the worst part about it, Garrett, the worst part about it is that we know a guy who's on the committee. As a matter of fact, of all the people who've ever been on our show, the only one with more appearances is John McClain, is Mac Rhodes, and we can't talk to him about it.
I know. Hell of a time, man. Hell of a time. Are there any other ones? Like, okay, so I have a problem. I think you could make an argument, and I think they should have put Indiana and BYU, honestly, ahead. That should have been, however you wanted to take that, whether it was 4 or 5 or 6, but I think you could have placed them ahead because they're undefeated and then piled Texas and them behind them.
Yeah.
But I think there's a good argument to be had there. I don't think, let me see here. There's definitely going to be an elimination situation, in my opinion, this weekend with that LSU-Alabama game. Whoever loses that game has no business being involved in this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about BYU. I feel like BYU gets the win this week in the Holy War. I'm nervous, though, that even though they are so much better on paper, we know how this is with rivalry games. We just saw it last week with A&M where you you won up to LSU and then you go and lose to South Carolina because you put so much energy in that. I'm afraid what's going to happen to BYU is they're going to go in, they're going to beat Utah in a game that's closer than what it should be. And then they're going to get caught up in a trap game and get beat by Arizona State the next week, and the Big 12 sitting with everybody having a loss.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, well, they've got Utah. They've got Kansas before Arizona State. But as a matter of fact, Arizona State is their outside of the rivalry game. I think they're just a lot better than BYU is right now. But Arizona State's the one to me on the road.
That's tricky, especially if Cam Scatterboo is healthy. That's one that I just think it's worth keeping an eye on in a couple of weeks then for that one. I think that's where kind of BYU might get a hiccup. Are there anything else? Like Washington State, I know we talked a little bit about Washington State and what their expectations should be in this. Are you surprised or anything with them being at 21? Is that about right?
No, I think it's about right. I think that's about where I expected them to be. I wanted them to be higher, right? I wanted them to be higher, but I understand the reality of things, but look, they're in it. Like the 3 group of 5 teams I think you have to really think about are Army, Wazoo, and Boise State.
Right.
And Boise State obviously with the best shot right now, but
unless Army somehow pulls off the upset of Notre Dame, I don't think that's going to happen, especially with Notre Dame already seeing that similar style offense in their win over Navy. But yeah, that's one. I think Boise's positioned pretty well, especially with their only loss being to Oregon. Like the only difference really in them and Ohio State is the caliber of competition, but it's exactly the same. They got beat by about the same amount of points by the same team who's clearly the best team in the nation right now. So I think they might be do you think Boise State finishes ahead of the ACC or the Big 12 champion as far as seeding goes?
Ask me that again.
Okay, so as far as seeding goes, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Boise State's will be seeded ahead of the ACC or Big 12 champion when it's all said and done?
Probably not, because that's likely going to be Miami or BYU at this point. I don't know. I think there's a better shot for them to be seated ahead of the Big 12 champion than the ACC champion, because Miami.
Well, especially if it's Miami and not SMU.
If it's Miami.
Yeah.
Even though, look, the ACC, and I said it earlier in the year, is an interesting league because they've got some good teams in it that they don't have, but they only have one really great team for sure.
Right.
A potentially great team. And I don't know if Miami's all that great.
They're really good.
They have some great offensive talent, but look, they've given up when their schedule started to ratchet up. They scored a ton of points, number 1 offense in the country, so they don't need that. But they've given up in the last, let's take the outlier of the FSU game out, where they only gave up 14 points.
Right.
But they've given up 34, 38, 45, and 31. And that Duke 31 wasn't
salty,
like
though.
Garbage time 31. Miami pulled away from them, right?
Yeah.
Louisville took them down to the wire. Cal took them down to the wire. Virginia Tech took them down to the wire. In fact, in 3 games in a row, they could have lost those games if one call went the other way.
So they're just a fancy version of TCU that made it that one year?
I mean,
Remember how TCU was winning
they're
all the close games?
They're like a brand name.
Yeah, that's
TCU.
what I mean.
Yeah,
like they're
TCU
more flashy.
TCU off-brand Miami.
Right.
We'll just call them that.
Yeah,
like that's what they were. No offense to TCU, but
you know what I'm talking about? Like the Flash, the Cam Ward. It's different.
They got it. And look, if they get up there and they win the play, like good for them. I just don't know based on their schedule. Who has Miami beaten? They've beaten a mediocre at best Gators team. Florida A&M, Ball State, USF, Virginia Tech, who's okay, Cal, who's turned out to not be that good. Cal has the biggest pimple of the season. They're the only team to lose to FSU. Yeah, that's a big pimple. That one will get you rejected for prom right there. Like, hey, will you go to prom with me? No. Well, why not?
No.
Like, dude, you need to get some Noxzema. You should have gotten rid of that thing before you asked her. The volcanic type pimple. Louisville, who's good, and just beat Clemson. And of course, Duke. I mean, like Duke's good, but like let's not give them more value than they have. So I'll also tell you that for the most part, most of the teams. That's why it's kind of weird to see the rankings this way. I'm not even complaining, but it's. I think it's the way, the worldview of how you view and weight certain teams.
Right.
Is that when you look at it, Georgia's got the win over Texas, and that's really their good win at this point. And the win over Clemson, which actually got worse last week, right? Because Clemson took another loss. And might get worse again this week because Clemson plays Virginia Tech. That's an upset alert game there, too, because Virginia Tech can do some things, right? I think Clemson wins, but wouldn't be surprised.
But that's a good point, though. Like, nobody really, even Oregon, like, they don't, like, I know Ohio State, like, that might be the best win of anybody, but there's not, like, a team that just reels off a bunch of
Oregon has, in my opinion, the two best wins of this whole thing, and they've got Boise State and Ohio State.
Right, yeah.
Like, they've got two.
So I don't think anybody else has
Georgia might
two.
get one this week if they beat Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But Texas doesn't have one yet.
No.
Now they stand to get one if they beat A&M.
Yeah, but that kind of
down
lost
the
its
line.
luster. I understand that, but like it's not the same. Since that South Carolina loss, I feel like that kind of it's dampened that a little bit.
But that still will be like
it's a rivalry and everything.
But still, if A&M's number 12, 13, 14, 10, they could be 10th.
Right.
By the time they play them, if they are, then that's good. That's good for both sides.
Yeah.
Somebody gets that win there. So, and look, I just think part of me thinks that the undefeated teams should be ranked ahead of the teams with one loss.
Yeah, until you get a loss.
Like the loss isn't like, like Ohio State has that loss to the number one team.
Like Indiana over Penn State.
Yeah, Indiana should be over Penn State right now. They've played essentially the same kind of schedule. Penn State does not have it. Like, I know that they're probably giving them Illinois and USC, but those teams have fallen off, right? So West Virginia's mediocre. Like they've got wins over mediocre teams, and they've played one good team and they lost.
Yeah.
They will play mediocre teams for the rest of the way out, save for Minnesota, who might be actually good. But again, beating Minnesota is not anything that's going to help Penn State.
No, not at all.
It's not going to be like, oh, is it Penn State or LSU? Oh, that's not going to help them. They beat Minnesota. Like, yeah, well, LSU plays in the SEC. So, get out of here with your Minnesota is what we would likely hear. So I don't agree with the way that like a lot of these are set up or whatever. And I wish it was different because we look at this and it's hard not to, but and I think this is no matter what anybody in the committee tells me, one of the things they need to say is this is not about what they did a year ago.
Correct.
Everything that you consider starts at the door of this season.
It should be like that.
There's no going backwards. There's no, man, Georgia's classically good. This is about this team right now. This is not about a team and a coach that won this. You're not going to put because a lot of times they're putting the coach above everything because the coach is still there. If Saban was there, Smart is there. Like, those are the guys they're putting the coach in because they know the coach will perform in these moments. No.
Unless you're Ryan Day.
But that's who they pick. Your Ryan Day hadn't been there yet, right? So they've got to start picking teams based on what is happening this season, most recently today where the team is now. Okay. And the best example of that recently that they actually did do, if you want to apply it, okay, is Florida State going to win without Jordan Travis against these teams, even though they beat the two teams without him? One of them was in the conference championship game. Are they going to be able to do that against Michigan or against Washington or Texas? I understand that probably not.
Right.
So but you need to but Florida State got no credit for any of their past history because it'd been a decade. Well, that's actually good. Then you go, well, it's still Florida State. They've got 1 million people. That was good that you didn't do that. That was good. It was good that they didn't say, you know what, Georgia and Alabama just played a great game. Let's put them both in and let's kick Texas out of this thing because they've both been better recently than Texas. And look, Texas is a brand, second to none, but overestimated though it may be sometimes. Right. It's still second to none as far as brand strength.
Yeah.
But they could have very well made that same argument of Alabama's only lost it to they could have done that and be like, well, we don't Texas isn't the Big 12. They could next year we wouldn't do this to Texas. But they didn't, and they didn't do it. There was no it's not even recency bias. It's there's no historical bias.
Yeah.
They need to get rid of the historical bias. So, Penn State is ranked above Indiana. Why? Because Penn State's been better than Indiana for 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter what happened. It matters what happens today.
So they don't play in the regular season, do they? No, I don't think they do. See, I wish. God, that's one thing with these conferences getting so big. There's got to be a way to adjust this to where everybody can play everybody, and because it's ridiculous that you don't have these situations or these scenarios where you're in a conference and you could clearly settle this on the field and you're just left speculating. There's got to be a way to fix that. And I don't know if it'll ever happen. Probably not, but I would like to see that. Whether it's a playoff at the end, you play everybody in your conference and then something, but I think there's got to be a better way to come up with who actually is the best teams coming out of these conferences.
Yeah, I just want that to be the thing. I think if you had that, it would take away a lot of the power of the SEC and the Big Ten, because you would be looking at it through the lens of today and not. And look, if you still look at it the lens through today, most of the time, the SEC teams are going to look better to you because they do have really good teams,
especially in the trenches.
Yeah, especially they're better up front. I get that, but But Alabama's the biggest example of this right now. You cannot look at this Alabama team and tell me they are for sure more deserving than the 5 teams below them at least.
No, you can't.
Just the 5 teams immediately below them.
Boise, SMU, A&M. No.
Okay, so why are they there?
Because of the mystique. It's
exactly.
Everything in the past.
There's there should not be a mystique factor.
It's that and their win against Georgia. That's the only reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is it.
Yeah, no, but we still see them there. So anyway, we have another short show today. This is something we're probably gonna do a little bit more of, just because it might be better for engagement, and there's no co-host, and there is. It's Garrett, but it's me and Garrett. Allows us to do some other things. Plus, you get to see. We've talked about rankings all the time. Peyton Soysher rankings right now is coming up